How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Wonder Sponge 5000, and in this video, we're going to talk about the potential for a Christmas snowstorm that could develop right around the Midwest and bring a heavy amount of snowfall throughout the northern portion of the United States, where many Americans could experience a white Christmas as a direct result of this Christmas snowstorm that could develop. And we'll also, of course, talk about the current snowstorm that's expected to impact the Northeast within the next 24 hours. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. So let's begin. I'll take a look at the European model, and we do see that as of right now, of course, we have this current low pressure system that's still bringing snow over the northern Midwest. However, it's only a matter of time before we begin to see that snow develop right around the Northeast once this low pressure system continues to move further eastward, and once this moisture interacts with a very cool air mass that's okay right around the Northeast, and we could see heavy snow at times right around the interior Northeast. So make sure to pay close attention to that. But taking a look at the more long-term future out beyond this current snowstorm, we have another possibility of a snowstorm to develop right around the Christmas time frame, where we're going to see a trough come off the Pacific Northwest that's expected to move eastward, and behind this trough we're going to see a high level of cold air, which will, of course, enhance the instability right around the middle of the country, and that could lead to our next major nor'easter and snowstorm, where we of course see very heavy snowfall right around Northeast as a result of this trough moving eastward, along with the just the amount of persistent cold air that's going to be behind this trough. That's going to create a very unstable environment for quite a powerful low pressure system to develop right up along the Northeast coast. And along with it, we're going to have another trough that's going to come from the southeast that's expected to move northward, coinciding with when this trough moves eastward. And pretty much that interaction between this very warm core low pressure system and this Arctic trough will create just a highly unstable environment for potentially significant snowstorm to develop right around the Christmas time, where we do see heavy snowfall right around the northern Midwest. And of course, this snow is expected to move into the Northeast right around the 23rd to the Christmas Eve time frame, where we do see very heavy snowfall, especially in the interior Northeast. And the millibar pressure drops quite a bit, where we see the millibar pressure drop down to 969 millibars, which is equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane. So of course, winds would be very strong associated with the low pressure system as well if the European model's scenario was correct when for this potential Christmas snowstorm. But there's still, of course, a high amount of uncertainty. I'm going very far out with the forecast, so a lot of time to iron out the forecast. But when we see the GFS model also agree that there's going to be quite a significant Christmas snowstorm right around the northern Midwest and Northeast, then that certainly does raise the possibility that we could see a snowstorm, because we have both the computer models pretty much in good agreement that there's going to be a snowstorm right around the 23rd of December. And they both agree that there's going to be a persistent amount of cold air behind this trough as well. So there's a higher possibility that we're going to see enough instability for this snowstorm to develop. However, they're still taking somewhat different scenarios. For one thing is that we don't see the GFS model strengthen as rapidly or as intensely as the European model suggests, where we do see the millibar pressure drop down to 980s by the time this approaches Maine. But by that point, it's going to be pretty much right at eastern Canada, where you won't really experience the strongest or at least the peak intensity of this storm, at least for most of the Northeast, as this storm develops a lot later than the European model. So the heavier snowfall and the stronger winds would be more so right around eastern Canada, right around the rather than the Northeast. However, we still do see a heavy amount of snowfall throughout the Northeast. Even the more coastal cities such as New York City, a little bit of Boston gets involved, Philadelphia, as well as it seems like there's going to be enough cold air for this snow to move southward into southern New Jersey as well, where the GFS model does forecast that over the next several days, temperatures will be much colder than average for the northern United States. So I do believe that where a lot of of the areas that haven't experienced their first accumulating snowfall yet might experience their first accumulating snowfall within the next week, since the temperatures are going to be so cold. It's at some point you're going to be bound to experience some snowfall, and since the jet stream dip is so sagged down into the United States, we're more likely to see a higher level of instability for potentially a major snowstorm to develop. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as we approach the Christmas time frame, that I do believe that we're going to be in a potential snowstorm pattern, and that could lead to many Americans to experience a white Christmas this year. So definitely pay close attention to that, but we're going to pay close attention to this solar system. Of course, what will determine where exactly you'll receive snowfall is the position of the jet stream. If the jet stream ends up being a little bit too far north, then the snow would mainly impact the extreme northern portions of the United States, and I'm talking about the northern Great Lakes, the interior northeast, where pretty much the places where they've already experienced snowfall this year. However, for the places further southward, let's say south of New York City, we're going to need to see how significant this jet stream dip will be to really determine how far south this snow goes. In the GFS model's depiction, we see the snow move as far south as Tennessee, and we see the snow extend into Pennsylvania, New Jersey as well, and we see a heavy amount of snowfall throughout New England. And for the Midwest, we see that snow sag down to Iowa, Illinois, even Missouri gets involved a little bit, and a large portion of Ohio and Indiana, which would be potentially your first significant snowfall in areas this far south in the Midwest. So we're definitely going to need to pay close attention to how far south this jet stream dips over the next several days, not only for where exactly the temperatures will be cold enough for there to be snow, but of course how fast this will intensify, because if the jet stream dip is more significant like the European model is suggesting, then we're more likely to see the solar pressure system rapidly intensify quicker, and that would lead to a more significant snowstorm for the Northeast. Let's look back at the European model's scenario. You're gonna see that. Let me actually move on to the 18Z run of the GFS model. So taking a look at the 18Z run, we see a fairly similar forecast from the 12Z run, but we see the snow impact the coastal cities of the Northeast even more so, where we even see Cape Cod get involved with some snowfall, and we see that this solar pressure system does not intensify as rapidly as the previous run, but we still see snow in areas that are much further southward, where Missouri still gets involved, Kentucky and West Virginia. So we have seen somewhat of a shift in the forecast, where GFS model is leaning towards bringing the snowfall a little bit further southward as of the latest run. And taking a look at the European model, we see that the European model doesn't still expects snow to impact the Midwest and Northeast, but expects the snow to be a little bit further northward. But this storm is of course much stronger, so I'd expect a lot more snowfall right around Northeast, thanks to how powerful this storm is and how powerful these snow bands will be. And we do see a little bit of negative tilt with the jet stream, so this snow could linger for days on end, as well as the cold and the windy conditions, since this storm is quite powerful as well. So again, we're going to need to pay close attention to the position of the jet stream, and we probably won't find out until this weekend, I'd say, once this low pressure system actually moves ashore. But I'll keep you guys updated over the next several days. We're going to need to pay close attention to how strong northerly winds will be, so make sure to at least be aware of this throughout the northern Midwest and Northeast, that there's that possibility of potentially a major Christmas snowstorm. Now, let's move more into the short-term future, where of course we still have this snowstorm to worry about right around the northern Midwest as well as the Northeast. We do see that the heaviest snowfall still has yet to come for Wisconsin and Minnesota, where we do see that this solar pressure system will eventually move northward, and the cool temperatures will eventually move into Wisconsin for heavy snowfall to occur, where I wouldn't be surprised that a large area of Minnesota and Wisconsin experiences over a foot of snow. And same goes for the interior Northeast, where the rain still has yet to move into the Northeast and still has yet to interact with the cooler air mass that's located in the Northeast, and eventually that's when we should see heavy snowfall right around the interior Northeast. Now, taking a look at the snowfall forecasts provided from the European model, we do see that the European model still is expecting a relatively large area of over a foot of snow right along northeastern Minnesota and a large area of 6 to 12 inches. So this snowstorm is far from done for much of the northern Midwest, and we see heavy snowfall as well that's expected to move in by tomorrow for a lot of the interior Northeast, where many areas, especially in the higher elevations, would experience over a foot of snow in this scenario. And I wouldn't be surprised that in localized areas we experience over 2 feet of snow in the Northeast. But take a look at the more long-term future. We eventually will see this potential next snowstorm move into the Northeast, which would definitely raise snow totals by around the Christmas time frame. So if you're hoping for a white Christmas, this snowstorm might be the one that does bring snowfall over a large area of the Northeast and the Midwest, depending on how far south the jet stream dips. But I'll keep you guys updated. Take a look at what the GFS model is forecasting when it comes to snowfall. For this first snowstorm, the certainty is pretty high. Again, heavy snowfall throughout the interior Northeast as well as the northern portion of the Great Lakes. But again, we're going to need to pay close attention to this next snowstorm, which is expected to bring snow first southward into the bigger coastal cities. And taking a look at the current radar, we do see a heavy amount of rain throughout the Midwest at this time, where you need to be worried for the possibility of flash flooding right around Illinois, as there's just a high amount of instability that's just creating a high amount of lift and convection throughout the Midwest for a heavy amount of rain to occur. And eventually this rain, of course, will change over the snow, and the snow will likely be heavy at times. Expect snowfall rates between 1 to 3 inches per hour, which would just be dangerous to drive out during with snowfall rates that high. The snowplows definitely won't be able to keep up with that. So make sure to just stay indoors for the rest of tonight and into tomorrow for much of the northern Midwest, because this snowstorm is just beginning for you guys, as over a foot of snow is likely all throughout a large portion of Minnesota and Wisconsin. And eventually the snow will move into the Northeast. Saying look at the Futurecast radar to see when you guys should begin to see the heaviest snowfall. So let's take a look at that. You're going to see that the snow will eventually develop, I'd say right around the early morning hours on Thursday. That should affect a little bit of Milwaukee as well, Minneapolis, the northern portion of Wisconsin, and eventually we will see the snow develop right around the early morning to afternoon time frame, and we will see snow move right around northwestern New Jersey as well, before eventually changing over to rain, as it seems like the low pressure system will eventually move closer and closer to New Jersey to bring the warmer temperatures right around New Jersey. But the interior Northeast, this will likely be an all snow event, including Albany, New York, which likely will experience very heavy snowfall with this storm. But eventually there should be a little bit of mixing once this low pressure system really comes close to the Albany area. But for the most part, it should be a heavy snow event for much of the interior Northeast, especially the higher elevations. So be prepared for potentially over a foot of snow in some areas. Now, take a look at my forecast when it comes to this potential next major Christmas snowstorm. So I'm expecting very heavy snowfall throughout the potential of heavy snowfall throughout the Northeast. Again, this forecast is definitely subject to change. From between now and the 23rd, that's still around 9 days to really iron out the forecast. So I'll keep you guys updated over the next several days regarding this snowstorm. Gonna need to see how far south this jet stream dips to really determine where exactly the heaviest snow will fall, and if snowfall will actually come to the northern United States at all, because there's still that possibility this trough might not develop as planned. But with both of the main computer models agreeing that we will see a snowstorm right around the Christmas time frame, does make me believe that at least somewhere in the northern United States you will experience snowfall associated with that trough. We're just gonna need to wait and see where exactly that snowfall will impact the northern United States. So I'll keep you guys updated. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. I hope you guys have a great day.